Um, One of the comments that I've repeatedly heard from fraudsters is that they don't perceive there to be much risk in doing card fraud. So, for example, the comparative risk between putting a stocking on your head and going robbing a bank, or robbing an online retailer from the privacy of your own bedroom. Would you agree with that? That fraudsters perceive there's little risk in doing card fraud?
I mean, it's common sense, really. If you go out and rob a bank and steal £10,000 with a gun, then, if you get caught, then you're facing life imprisonment. Whereas if you steal £10,000 from a credit card, then, you'll be lucky to get maybe 2 or 3 years at the most. So, I mean, for the fraudster, it's definitely a lot safer, in terms of getting caught. And also the other thing as well, if you rob a bank, then the police are going to be on your tail right away. Whereas if you do something over the internet, then, a lot of the time the police won't even know about it, because it's just such a common thing then.
Yes, so some of the research that 192 have done shows that 70% of retailers, and I don't know if you guys think this is the case, but 70% of retailers don't actually report online fraud to anyone, whether it be to the bank, to the police. And I think the reason for that is that at the moment they don't have anywhere to report it to. The retailers' experience of reporting fraud to the police isn't great. The police might say, well, actually no, the cardholder's in that jurisdiction, so you have to go over there.
I mean, I had an interview with BBC News 24 last week, and I was asked about this very same thing. I mean, my opinion would be that I think what might be a good idea, well, I think definitely would be a good idea, is to have a dedicated unit in each police force around the country, possibly funded by the banks, seeing as it's them who's going to save the money in the long run, to deal with this sort of thing, because it's becoming a growing problem. I mean, every week we're hearing stories about fraud this and fraud that, so the public are going to get to the stage where they're just so concerned that the police are going to have to do something about it.
To be fair to the banks, I think that does happen at the moment, although to a lesser extent. There's a unit called the DCPCU, the Dedicated Card DCPC, Dedicated Card Plastic Crime Units, and that is in turn, that's funded by APACs, who are in turn funded by the banks. But I agree. I think that until each police force around the country has targets to prosecute, arrest and convict card fraudsters, I think the card fraud stats will keep going right up, and as a result retailers will keep having to invest in more technologies and more man hours and more process to beat card fraud.
But we've also got the problem where the banks don't really want to admit that there is a problem. So, how can you fix a problem that apparently isn't there?
Yeah. Whilst we're on the subject of the banks, chip and pin, the Newsnight programme that was on a few months ago, where Sandra Quinn from APACS got savaged by Paxman when he was complaining about chip and pin. Okay. Well, chip and pin. Do you think there is any threat? Any route in for fraudsters, or?
Well, from what I can recall of the Newsnight programme, I'm not sure if anyone here saw it, but the gist of it was that the Newsnight team had went up to interview a team of boffins at Cambridge University who had discovered that chip and pin was not the safe method of payment that the banks keep telling us it is, namely because the actual terminals that are manufactured by one particular manufacturer are able to be infiltrated by fraudsters, and the PIN number can then be read as the customer's entering it. So although the card, basically what they would then do is they would go away and make up a brand new card with a magnetic strip. Obviously they can't replicate the chip, but they can take the card overseas, and because they know the PIN number and they don't use the chips overseas, they can put the card in the machine and they can take the money out that way. So yes, there is definitely a considerable threat to chip and pin from fraudsters. Although I'm still convinced that the real methodology that's going to be used by fraudsters to get around it, I'm still convinced we haven't actually seen that yet.